Right, let's bring in our favorite, Sean Salisbury, morning host of the Sean Salisbury Show on Sportstalk 790 in Houston. Sean, what do you make of this chatter, as they like to say, that Russell Wilson is maybe available or on the market?
Dan, first of all, it was great to be on with you. When anybody talked about trading for me, it would have been for an apple and a roadmap. You know what I mean? Now we got 3 and 4 and 5 first rounders. It's amazing. Then you start to think about head coaches and quarterbacks and how they're tied to it. And when that starts to go sour, Carson Wentz, Doug Peterson, because they're tied together. When you're winning, the head coach and quarterback, everything's great, right? We're kicking butt. Everything's good. Start to go south and everybody's like, well, they're tied. So the coach starts to say, what's wrong with my quarterback? We saw it in the Rams with Goff and McVay, and now and in Philly, and possibly here, but not because the coach here in Houston. But with this Russ Wilson, Pete Carroll thing, we've heard talk of a little bit of strife, and and when that happens, you start to wonder. 3 first, I think they'd be nuts, Dan. There's not a guy. I mean, when you talk about the 3 best, not named Mahomes in the league that you get assets for today, Rodgers, Watson, Wilson. Why would you trade the core of your franchise? I mean, he's the guy that makes them go. Now, they need some help. He's obviously can't get him to a Super Bowl without some good defense and the rest of it, but I wouldn't even entertain it. That being said, we get guys now that are a little unhappy and things aren't going well. If somebody called me up, or if somebody said that Russ Wilson could be had for 3 number ones, and like let's say Minnesota or New England wanted him offered 3. If I was that team and I knew that they would give him away for 3 ones, I'd crawl 10 miles over broken glass for that. I would. I think it's absurd why we're all this quarterback talk in the league that we want to give away the guy that you got to go find anyway. Seattle would be absolutely nuts. Now, if they're in a whole rebuilding phase, fine. You're not going to find a guy on the market right now that you're going to get that's going to give you anywhere near the chance Russ Wilson does.
Now, the Texans have said that Deshaun Watson's not available. The Seahawks haven't said anything about Russell Wilson.
Right.
But it feels like Deshaun Watson's going to be traded, and I don't think Russ is going to be traded by Seattle. If they're not taking offers, it's weird that it's public that they're not taking offers. Like, how did it become public that they're not taking offers unless they want to continue to get offers?
Right. Dan, right. And nothing's negotiable, right? Sure it isn't. Right. All of a sudden somebody calls and say, hey, how about 5 first rounders and a couple starters? Well, okay. It just all of a sudden became, we're taking phone calls. Dan, it's going to be impossible for them while they may not be now. You know darn well when they're sitting in a room, Caserio and the guy who apparently has all power in Jack Easterby and Cal McNair, that they're saying we may not be taking calls, but we got to start to consider that option. Because while I would not trade him, if I was a GM there, we would have never been in this situation. And I would exhaust every opportunity, which they're not doing, to find out, Deshaun, let me hear you. What is your concern about this? Can it be fixed? And then I'd ask him again, can it be fixed? And until the point where I wore out the can it be fixed, then yes, you have to field calls. And Dan, that's going to become more urgent than not. Why? Because you've got to start to field those calls if you're going to trade him and you're not going to play line in the sand hardball before the draft, because you want to go draft the guys you want, right? With those assets that the Jets or the Dolphins are going to give you. So while they may not be fielding calls, I'll guarantee you they're keeping a journal. This is my opinion of, okay, we know what's out there. So while they may not be now, it doesn't say they're never going to. And I still yet to hear anybody pound the desk saying, don't call us. Watson's not available.
Do you think he's traded? Is he traded before the start of the season?
I would have said, now for me, I wouldn't do it, Dan. The more I think about this and the more that the length continues to lengthen out and there's no conversation. And I don't know if Cully can get to him or Nick Caserio. I think this is deeper with the Easterby and Cal McNair thing. And as long as they're there, I don't think Watson's coming back. Now, I think you're nuts to trade him. But, Dan, there's going to come a breaking point where the fracture turns into shattered glass. And I think you're going to have to. And if Deshaun just says he's not going to do it, I don't know if you can take the risk or wait until August to say, hey, we'll challenge him on this. And if somebody's going to offer you 4 ones and 3 players, you obviously have to consider it. And then that team's going to have to feel the punch to the gut so bad that their franchise is gutted and they're in a rebuilding process. And it's going to take them 3 or 4 years to win, even with Watson.
I wondered about this, and I don't have confirmation. I tried to find it out last night, that the Bears weren't in on Carson Wentz. They didn't even make an offer, reportedly. They need a quarterback. the Bears, to me, are a sneaky destination for Deshaun Watson. I know we talk about Carolina and we throw out the Jets. And if I'm the Bears, you missed him once, don't miss him again. And you got a chance to clean up after Mitchell Trubisky, and you get the guy that you want or you should have taken in the beginning. And look, I don't have anything that would tell me this other than logic, and they did not make an offer for Carson Wentz.
And Watson's better than Carson Wentz, Dan. And common sense, you're right. You don't have any insight on this, but common sense would say that's insight enough, right? This would be the most gifted quarterback, and I couldn't agree with you more, in Chicago's history. And it's not just based on potential. There's production with Watson as well, and he's 25, and you got him under contract for the next handful of years. There is no doubt, Dan. And here's what's interesting about the situation, what Watson brings. It instantly makes them not only a viable threat in their division, but a viable threat all across the league and in the NFC, because now you got a guy who doesn't have to load everybody on his back every single week and carry the defense that can get off the field. And you're right. When you missed out on a guy like this, you say, okay, and I'm with the Sean McVay approach, Dan. I don't care about winning the trades. I care about, now listen, am I sure that the 18th or 19th or 24th or 15th pick of the draft is going to give me what Watson is? No, I'm not. And the one thing, what are we always saying about the Bears? I'm talking about every year. Can we get a quarterback? Do I need to go down the list of them? Can we get a quarterback? Can we get a quarterback? We got this. And they've never had it. So if you've never had it, why don't you go do one thing that gives you a chance to get it? If you think you can get Watson, make them an offer they can't refuse and give you the one thing you haven't had in decades. Now you've won a Super Bowl with Mac, but great defense. All these things. And this guy, trust me, is not going to let you down as a quarterback. He's just not. And if the Chicago Bears were wise, they would actually fly, beat down the door at Kirby here in Houston and try to beg them to listen to an offer. There's no doubt it's a sneaky, and maybe Pittsburgh sneaky, depending on the Ben Roethlisberger dead cap money. But if you're Deshaun Watson, I would think you'd want to be traded to a winner that gives you a chance to win immediately, as opposed to have to go and rebuild in 5 years from now, maybe not be in a Super Bowl because you're playing for the Jets. Chicago is a sneaky one to me, Dan, and shouldn't be sneaky. It should be about as subtle as a punch to the face if you're the Bears.
Talking to Sean Salisbury, former NFL quarterback, host of the Sean Salisbury Show in Houston. The Dak Prescott situation, it's franchise tag day, at least the start of this here. And I wonder if Jerry Jones is going to roll the dice again and say, let me see what you got for one more year. You're coming back from, the ankle injury, and I can pay you decent money. And then we can find out if we want to do a long-term contract or franchise you again after that. But give me the logic with the Cowboys here with Dak Prescott.
There is none, in my opinion. And I love Jerry Jones, Dan. But this would have already been done. Listen, he's been until this year, and he's going to come back from this injury just fine. Dak will. I promise you. What more do you need to see? You wanted stats. He gave you stats. I loved him when he came out. I thought he was, I think I had him as the second best player at that position in the draft. And I think he fits off the field. He can make every throw. He's accurate. He's tough. His durability was beautiful until unfortunate injury this year. Dan, I would sign him. I wouldn't even mess with this because I always say this. I got a guy I believe is a franchise quarterback. What's the other option? What's the other option? Okay, I like Andy Dalton, but stop. I mean, what's the option? You want to go out while Sam Darnold may end up being a star in this league? Well, I have that guy. Once again, I just don't understand. You work as a general manager, a coach in a front office, or Jerry Jones, your whole career to find that guy. He got one with Troy Aikman. If you get a second one, and Romo was a good player too. Not everybody can be the Packers or the 49ers with those guys. You're lucky if you get one of them. And I just don't understand what you're looking for. The grass isn't greener. I got news for you. If Dak Prescott's back and playing on that team, they're a playoff team, and Dak Prescott is a top 10, top 12 quarterback in this league, top 10. I would pay him. I wouldn't even mess with it.
But I think Jerry Jones, I think he stumbled into something.
He loves
Sean.
the game.
No, I think Jerry Jones stumbled into something. Because let's say Dak comes back, he's not great. I haven't given him that long-term contract. They go 7-9. They don't make the playoffs. They change their coach. Jerry, this wasn't by design.
Right.
Because, they could have done this 2 years ago and probably got him at a bargain. But this is where we are right now, and Jerry Jones may go, I didn't plan on this, but if Dak's not Dak and we're not great, then I don't have to pay him, and I'm going to get a new coach in here, and, we'll start it again.
What if he is great, Dan? You know what? He ends up let's say he's great and they go 10-6
but then
and
you
get
pay
to the
him.
NFC.
But you pay
right.
him.
And then you pay him between Watson and Mahomes money, right?
Yeah, he's going to get $45 million a year.
Right. And guaranteed like 80% of it, right?
Yeah.
So you're taking the risk like they all do. And Jerry's done that plenty of times. But Dan, I'm just thinking for the stability of a franchise and for what you want going forward. And a guy who's been a model citizen, players love him, people love him. He's a competitor. He's tough. And people say, well, he's not a numbers guy. Well, I saw him throw for 5,000 yards. This is a really, really good player. And I always say, if this isn't one, what's my option? You want Cam Newton instead of Dak Prescott?
No.
I respect Cam, but no, I don't. And I heard you guys talking about Darnold over Prescott. No, Dak Prescott is that guy. And he may not be Mahomes. We always want to compare everybody to Mahomes. How many is there? It's Mahomes. Okay, so stop it. The rest of them are guys that are falling into place in the Watson and the Rodgers. And if you can get that elite player who's a top 7, top 8 player, you don't let him go, especially at the hardest position to find that guy and that you've worked your whole life to get him. I love Dak Prescott, and I think the Dallas Cowboys would be out of their friggin' minds if they don't sign him to a long-term deal. And if they want to play with fire, watch him go throw for 5,000 yards and win 10 or 11 games, and then he's going to go crack them for about 45 mil.
Can Cam Newton still be a starter?
I think he can with a team, Dan, that doesn't have a solid starter and got to have a little luck, meaning, fully healthy, a place where there's a quarterback that's not stable. He's not going in and going to beat out Carson Wentz. He's not going to go beat out whoever, if it's Zach Wilson or somebody in New York or
Can
Rodgers.
You have him as a backup?
That all depends on him. It all depends on where he at as a maturity in the league. Can he accept when that opportunity presents itself that I'll be ready to take advantage of it? Or do you have to roll him in and say, it's your job until you lose it or keep it? I would think that's probably the latter is the one that you'd go. You'd say, well, if it's even, we'll start Cam Newton. The key is at what point in his career, with his body being up in a tremendous career, does he get to the point, Dan, where he says, I can accept this, but I'm going to stay ready to be the starter. If you are going to start him, it's a 1-year contract on a team that's probably not very good, and you're going to give him one more chance to say, go light it up and prove what you got for 16 games. I think he's still a viable option, but I don't think he's a franchise guy that's going to make a huge difference in your franchise as a starter.
Did you ever root for the starter to get injured when you were on the sidelines as the backup?
No, Dan, but I can tell you this, and if people that aren't transparent about this, I was fortunate that I was in rooms with great guys and great players like Wade and Jim McMahon and Warren Moon and Rich Gann and that group, wherever I was. Because there's nothing worse than hating the guy that you're competing with. Like, I hate this guy. You drop back at practice. Now, McMahon never practiced. He would just make me do all the training camp and then knew he was going to start. He'd laugh. He'd be sweats on. He'd be laughing and say, hey, kid, get out there. My shoulder's a little sore. Yeah, from tilting 12 ounces, you clown. But I loved him for it. But, Dan, I don't think you ever wished it. But it's human nature to say, I'd love us to win this game. But, man, if his shoulder had a little tendonitis or if he threw 3 picks and we still won, that'd be pretty cool. But, no, you don't root for that because you don't want that guy doing that to you. But human nature and competition says, well, it'd be kind of nice to, nothing serious, but man, if that turf toe kicked in for 2 weeks where I could go in there and play.
Did you ever not want to go into a game?
Let's see. Yes, I'll tell you a story. We're playing Cleveland Browns. It's my second year in the league. I'm with the Colts. We had won the division. We're at the Mistake by the Lake. Dan, it's freezing. I'm telling you, I'm freezing. It's like 0 degrees. I got that big jacket on with a hoodie, and I'm thinking it's my second year in the league. I hadn't played much. I'm like, and Jack Trudeau, who's a good player, was in. I get on with Greg Briner, our quarterback coach. I get on the headset with him. I say, we're getting our butt handed to us by Cleveland in a playoff game, first round. And you're going to love this. And I'll try to go quick. I know you got a break. And so I'm sitting there, and it's about 4 or 5 minutes to go in the game. And Greg Bryan said, man, Bryans, I don't want to go in this game, man. We're getting our butt kicked. It's too cold. It'd take me an hour. And then you get like 4 warm-up tosses. No sooner do I say that, Jack Trudeau gets destroyed in the pocket. So I got to go in. I got my hair. I got my nice mullet working for TV. I warm up like 5 throws. I'm 24, 25 years old, 23. So I'm ready to go. I go out there. We hit a few throws. And then I call an audible like an idiot at the line of scrimmage. And Billy Brooks couldn't hear it. I throw a curl route. He runs a corner. Frank Minifield picks it off, Dan. Starts working his way down, and Don Criqui and Bob Trumpy are on the call. And I'm going to tell you why I say that. So Minifield's working his way down. Minnie's about 5'7" and 145 pounds dripping wet and a Pro Bowl stud. So I'm thinking to myself, literally, as I'm working there, somebody tackle him. Somebody tackle him. At about the 3-yard line, nobody's tackled his ass, and I'm the one who's got to jump in there. So what's he do? I'm standing straight up. He puts his helmet between my number, my 1 and 3, drives me into the end zone, and Cabbage patches over me. And they score again. So I got to come back out for the next series. So the day later, I'm back in Indianapolis. Season's over. I'm walking through the mall. I go into a Foot Locker to get Christmas gifts to take home. On that TV, you know, on Foot Locker, they used to run highlights. And Dan, I promise you, I walk in there and I hear Bob Trumpy saying, it's intercepted, Salisbury. I mean, they're talking. The second I walk in, it shows me getting Cabbage patched on by Frank Minifield. So right then and there. So yes, Dan, at that point in time, I said, hell no, I got
you, Paulie, you got Sean's stats in that Browns game?
Yeah, he was 1 for 6 with 15 yards and a pick.
Yes. And we hit one. I missed one down the middle on a cold to Albert Bentley. And I didn't thaw out and then you go in the Cleveland locker room and the shower water's up to your thigh, 3 guys to 1 locker. You know, it was the old school one, and I loved it. But yeah, Dan, it was one of those where I'm like, I knew going in that this isn't where I wanted to be, and then I'll be damned if I'm not walking through the mall and Bob Trumpy and Don Criqui are telling me, and that's the one play we see, and I'm like, I'm done, I'm out, let me out of all of it. So yeah, but I never rooted for a guy to get hurt. You usually root for your partner, but you didn't have a problem if every now and then you could get in the third quarter to make a few throws, unless it's a playoff game against Cleveland where you throw a pick and Don Criqui tells you about it and Bob Trumpy. That was a bad day, Dan.
Thank you, bud.
I appreciate
it.
Thanks for letting me extend it. Good to talk to you.
Sean Salisbury. Feel like I'm a therapist sometimes. I'll just let it out. Host of the Sean Salisbury Show on Sports Talk, 790 in Houston.